Donald Trump gave an absurd speech in Schnecksville, Pennsylvania yesterday. I was actually at the rally talking to his supporters, interviewing them, debating them. I'll release that footage soon, but now that I'm back, I want to break down some of the crazy remarks he said. But first, let's look at this clip of Speaker of the House Mike Johnson implying that illegal immigrants are voting in our elections en masse. They are instituting a new law where illegal immigrants aren't allowed to vote. Well, first of all, I don't think you can vote anywhere if you don't have an ID or proof of voter registration. So this idea that illegal immigrants are swaying our elections is just false. Look at this clip.
The thing we need to do, and this is what the House Republicans are about to enter legislation into the record that will ensure that no illegal can vote in a federal election. You have to prove you're a citizen instead of, as the law currently states, just checking a box to say it. Maria, we have so many illegals in the country. They could tilt the election if this happened. If just 1 in 100 illegals decided to vote in a federal election, it could swing congressional races, and it might even swing presidential election. You could talk about hundreds of thousands of votes potentially. So we have to do everything possible to make sure that this election is secure. It's a #1 priority of the American people.
Mr. Speaker, thanks very much.
Now listen, I want secure elections too. I'm sure we all do, but it's worth pointing out that the 2020 election was genuinely the most secure election in American history. In states like Georgia, they did 3 recounts and risk-limiting audits to make sure there was no fraud, and there wasn't. So this idea that immigrants are moving to our country and swaying the results of our election is just unfounded, completely unfounded. And I don't even like to use the word illegal when talking about immigrants. I was just mirroring the rhetoric that Mike Johnson uses. But if we're going to talk about people illegally swaying the results of our election, it's weird not to mention Donald Trump, who made up claims of widespread voter fraud that were completely unsubstantiated, unfounded. He did this in 2016 too. He said that 3 million illegal immigrants voted in our election, and then when he was elected president, he opened a committee to research that, to look into it, and then he disbanded the committee quietly once they found out that this was completely untrue. So Republicans are again trying to fearmonger, trying to say that our elections are unsecure, they're being swayed by immigrants, being swayed by this or that or dead voters, but this always gets debunked. For example, in Georgia, again, they said that there were tens of thousands of dead voters, but when they did this risk-limiting audit, they found out that the real number was 3 dead voters compared to the tens of thousands that they were claiming existed. So the fact that Mike Johnson stood by Donald Trump's side in 2020 during the fake elector scheme, during January 6th, during these claims of widespread voter fraud that were unsubstantiated, but now he's worried about illegally swaying our elections is just totally ironic, hypocritical. It is too much for me to handle. But let's take a look at some of the clips from Trump's speech in Schnecksville yesterday.
From now, the entire world will witness the commencement of the very first Biden trial. They're all Biden trials, you know that, right? And I'm proud to do it for you. Have a good time watching. Have a good time watching. On Monday in New York City, I will be forced to sit fully gagged. I'm not allowed to talk. Can you believe it? They want to take away my constitutional right to talk. I have a crooked judge. This has never happened before, by the way. You do know that, right? Fully gagged before a highly conflicted and corrupt judge who suffers from TDS. Does anyone know what TDS is? Correct. Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh no, you're a criminal defendant on a high-profile case that won't stop attacking the judges, and you were gagged? Say it ain't so. This has never happened before in American history. I'm obviously being sarcastic. Donald Trump will not stop attacking Judge Merchan's family members. Even a few trials ago, he was attacking the clerk sitting next to the judge. Over and over, he has shown that he should not be allowed to attack people in these court cases. Any other defendant would have immediately gotten reprimanded. They're giving him a lot of leeway because they don't want to enrage his fan base and give him more fuel to act like he's the victim. But again, this is a great example of him being the victim. You committed a crime, you attacked the members of the court and the judge's family members, and when you got a gag order placed on you, you twist it to make it seem like you're the victim and they're violating your First Amendment right. That is not how it works whatsoever.
Theirs was much worse. It's where the Army weathered its brutal winter at Valley Forge, where General George Washington led his men on a daring mission across the Delaware, and where our Union was saved by the immortal heroes at Gettysburg. Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable, I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg, wow. I go to Gettysburg.
So MAGA always attacks Joe Biden for using a teleprompter during his speeches, but teleprompter Trump over here can stand there and clearly be reading about the Battle of Gettysburg, which he should already know about, and they don't say a single word. The top comment under this tweet is, Donald Trump always talks about history or anything like a fourth grader doing a book report on a book he didn't read. Imagine this guy leading a nation. Imagine thinking that he's equipped to do that when he can't even describe one of the most famous battles in American history. And he calls it beautiful over and over. It is a beautiful battle, but 50,000 people died during that. There was nothing beautiful about it. It was brutal. But as someone who was at this rally yesterday, talking to the people in the crowd before the rally took place, I can guarantee you that they did not second guess anything Donald Trump said. They eat it up. They love him so much and they trust him for whatever reason or another that he can slur his way through speeches and read off a teleprompter, and they don't care. They make endless excuses for why everybody in the world, everybody in Trump's old cabinet cannot be trusted, but Donald Trump is the guy who can be trusted. Take a look at this clip of Donald Trump talking about cutting funding for public education if vaccine mandates are a thing in that school district. This is the most Republican thing I've ever heard. How much education funding can you cut until we start to fall behind other countries?
I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate.
COVID has absolutely broken these people's brains because vaccine mandates have been a thing in schools for a while now to prevent outbreaks of the measles, to prevent outbreaks of smallpox. But all these conspiracy theories surrounding COVID and the pandemic make Republicans want to regress back over 100 years and bring back the iron lung. Like, if the MAGA movement was around when we passed the law requiring people to wear seatbelts in the car, I feel like they would be completely railing against it. They'd be like, oh, I knew someone who got in a car crash and he didn't have a seatbelt on and he survived. Therefore, all seatbelts are terrible. I knew someone who got in a car crash and his seatbelt actually killed him. Therefore, the seatbelts are terrible. That is exactly what they're doing with vaccines. They're using anecdotal evidence and trying to skirt by all of the studies, the massive, like hundreds of millions of people within America got these vaccines, and we haven't seen any widespread adverse effects. They are very safe, and they should actually be touted as a great accomplishment for America. When Trump supporters ask me to say one nice thing about Trump, I always say Operation Warp Speed. I thought he did a good job pushing for the vaccine to be made, and I know that there's still debate on whether or not Trump actually had a big part in pushing that, but it's just an easy gotcha when they ask you to name something nice about Donald Trump, and you say Operation Warp Speed. That part was great. But now he has flipped, as he always does, as he does on abortion and every other issue, to cater to his fan base who are largely anti-vax and conspiratorial. My name is Mockler. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment a blue heart if you made it this far, make sure to subscribe, but most importantly, make sure to have a great rest of your day.